but my wife has a Facebook, and so she tells me when they're having more kids and what's happening with the family. Nothing but love. I don't do it. I have a professional Facebook. You can find me out there.
Nice.
And I'll add you to my Facebook, and I'll add you on LinkedIn.
Yeah, it just went down this morning for the first time in history.
You'll never hear from me, ever. And I never post anything.
It's cool.
It's just a way to stay in touch.
Yeah.
Especially LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a good way to stay in touch with me. I got 2 emails from students from several years ago, back to back yesterday, both of which were really complimentary, saying all this stuff is everything you taught us we're using, and it was cool. It was good feedback. But now, man, Facebook is trash. I know. That's the least of my opinions. All right. What do I know? I know that E3, entity 3, looks to me like an associative entity between entity 1 and entity 4. That's what I know. I know that it looks like E3, E1, E4. And I know that all associative entities have a mandatory 1 here because that primary key comes over, has to have a value. And I know there are many. And I know we don't know the ordinality. Assumption. So that's what I know so far. 3. And I know it's entity 1 because I'm going to look at entity 1 and see it says E1 PK, and entity 4, E4 PK. So entities 5 and 6, where's entity 2? Entity 2 gets E1. So entity 2 says foreign key E1 PK references entity 1, E1 PK, not null, unduly restrict. And we said, well, how did E1 get down here? And we all agreed it could have got there from a 1 to many or 1 to 1, but we knew that that was a 1. The fact that E2 has to have an E1, the not null, tells you that's true. I don't know if this cardinality here is a 1 or a many, so that's an assumption. And nothing in the formula is to the ordinality, that's another assumption. E5 and E6 are both on delete cascade. They could be a weak entity. Oh wait, they can't because they don't have a composite primary key, part of which is foreign. So E5 and E6 must be subtypes, and they both reference E4. So E5, E6. I don't know whether it's total or partial specialization. I don't know whether it's disjoint or overlap. And E7 says that it picks up E5. And it says null allowed on delete restrict. So E5 got into E7 because it was a 1 to 1 or 1 to many. Null allowed. And E7 doesn't have to have an E5. I don't know the cardinality, and I don't know the ordinality. Thank you. Questions?
So, null allowed. Does that always mean that on the right side it's a 0, 1?
The right side is relevant, isn't it? Relative. You're trying to say, this says E7 says, foreign key E5 references E5. And null allowed means that E7 doesn't have to have an E5, or an E7 has 0 to blah E5s. So I don't want to say on the right side, it's only on the right side in this diagram.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
So it's optional.
It's just on the other side, I guess, is the way to think of it. It all goes back to when you first started learning how to read the ER diagrams. And everything that we've learned is consistent. We haven't changed any of our rules. Other questions? Okay. I brought all my fancy toys today, so I'm going to make the board clean. We'll do the other one. Okay. So if I look at this other one, I see holds, and holds looks like an associative entity between whatever has CID as a primary key, so consignment, and vessel. So consignment, holds, vessel, so all associative entities take the form mandatory one, many, I don't know the ordinality, so like every other associative entity ever, it looks like that. And consignment, holds, vessel. Voyage picked up vessel ID. Foreign key vessel ID and vessel not null, undelete, restrict. So voyage. So vessel ID became a foreign key down here in voyage. So it was a one-to-one or one-to-many. We don't know, but it says not null. So that's true. I don't know the ordinality. I don't know the cardinality. Let's see, voyage, holds. Agent picks up CID. CID came out of consignment. Agent says on delete cascade. It's got a composite primary key, part of which is foreign. That's a weak entity. Because CID is part of the composite primary key here, that has to be not null. And it even says it here under agent, foreign key CID and consignment, not null, on delete cascade. All weak entities take the form of a one-to-many. Since it's a weak entity thing, the only thing we don't know is the ordinality. Let's see, that's agent, holds, container. Let's see, container ends up in consignment. And it says consignment, foreign key container ID and container, null allowed. So it got there from a one-to-many or a one-to-one. I don't know, but it's null allowed. Don't know the ordinality or the cardinality. So container looks like that. And then employee ends up in consignment. It says foreign key EID and employee not null on delete restrict. So employee got over there from a one-to-one or a one-to-many, but it's not null. I don't know. Yes, sir.
So pretty much got the same place, but this structure here, is that called anything? Like when that was all finished, I was like, that looks a little different than what we've seen. Like everything tied into like one. That's not like that's not like a ternary. That's just the way it worked out.
It doesn't have a name.
Right.
I mean,
but there's nothing different going on.
Associative entity, and that's a weak entity, and that's a one-to-many and a one-to-many.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Nothing weird about it except all those assumptions. Other questions? This should be clicking. Good. Just give me those head nods because we should be there. We should be at the, oh yeah, got that. Right? And when you go do some ERDs now, they should be even easier because you understand them front, back, sideways, easy peasy. So I'm going to remind you what you can do is take any ERD that we've done, for which you have an answer. You can turn it into a set of relations of 4 key constraints. And then you can go from there and do a reverse ERD. And you've got lots of ERDs to play with. And ideally, you do that with someone else so that you can swap and check each other. That's it, man. If you don't have any questions, we're going to consider this well underway. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24 points. That's a quarter of a test. Exam 2, there are no mysteries. Okay, we need to learn one new thing. What we're going to learn is a new process, but our underlying rules are not going to change. So you're not allowed to psych yourself out into thinking that they have. Okay. We do the projector thing here for a few minutes. So if we go look at someone else's database, and we see that it's messed up, and what I'm talking about messed up is there's more tables being represented by one table than there should be. We, at this point, could probably sit there, look at that, draw a new ERD, and make it all better. However, there's a formal set of steps called normalization that takes a bunch of data and turns it into the proper third normal form. Now, if we do a good ERD, we're already there. This is for fixing someone else's problem, because you'll never make bad ERDs. Now, normalization, the biggest reason I teach it is because it's something an interviewer would ask you, especially under technical. You say like, hey, could you normalize this? And you're going to be like, yep, I can do that. Okay, so it's a tool for doing this. A well-structured relation is just a table that's not messed up. It's just a table that looks like everything we know, where it has a primary key, no multi-valued attributes. Everything is groovy. What we're trying to avoid are these anomalies. Okay, I'm going to show you a broken table that someone like someone using Access would make. Here's a table wherein the primary key is a composite key comprised of employee ID and course title. Okay? You could easily see someone doing this. And we can look at that now in our lives and go, that probably really should be an employee table, a course table, and associative entity in the middle of them that has date completed. But no, someone's put it all in one. So the first thing we can look at is an insertion anomaly. What if I insert a new employee, 160, Berkman, MSIS, some money. I haven't taken a course. We're going to have to make up a course for me or leave it null. But that's broken. Actually, that null can't really exist, right? Because that's part of the primary key. So that's an insertion anomaly. I cannot introduce a new person. Likewise, if I try to introduce a new course, I'd have to come up with a fake employee to fill that other side of the table. So that's clearly broken. Same thing with a deletion anomaly. Let's say that Chris Lucero gets a better job offer and he leaves us. That's fine. We delete his record. But then we're going to lose the fact that we offered some of these courses to Chris. Right? So we would lose more data than intended. That would be a deletion anomaly. And a modification anomaly would just be like if we gave Margaret a raise, we'd have to go through and rather than change her salary in one place, we'd have to find, let's say Margaret took 100 classes, we'd have to change her salary in 100 places. So, I mean, it's broke. We know it's broke. It's clear to see that it's broke. It's broke. So how do we fix it is kind of the name of the game here. Okay, let's first talk about what a dependency is. A functional dependency. Data is fully functionally dependent upon a primary key if it requires that whole primary key, all parts of it, are needed to identify each of the elements or attributes. The ISBN of a book clearly tells you whether it's paperback or hardback or e-book, and it tells you the title and the author's name and all those attributes are fully functionally dependent upon the ISBN. Your student information is fully functionally dependent upon your CWID when the primary key only has one part. This is easy to understand, the fully functionally dependent part. The question is, if the primary key is composite, then does every single attribute need both parts of the primary key to be uniquely identified? And that has to be true, or we have to fix it. Okay? Now, what I'm going to teach you is how to go from first normal form, we've written it out as a relation, down to third normal form. There's a normal form pass-out called Boyce-Codd normal form, aka third and a half normal form. And there's fourth normal form and fifth, and I will not teach those to you because A, they're a pain, and B, in the real world, we're going to end up denormalizing or undoing that work 99% of the time. So what you tell an interviewer, if they say, I'd like you to normalize this down to Boyce-Codd normal form, you go, you know what? Dr. Berkman only taught us through third normal form because he said, in the real world, we probably denormalize back out of Boyce-Codd or anything lower. And they're going to look at you and go, yeah, he's right. How do I know this? Because I've been telling my students for a decade now to tell the employers this, and I've never heard back anybody say, they said you were wrong. In fact, I talked to all the employers. So third normal form is going to work for us. Trust me, you don't want to do those bottom two there. Nobody got time for that. I mean, really. This is your most important slide. Put stars and fireworks and bunnies or whatever works for you. This is the slide I need you to internalize. Okay? A, because I made it and it's awesome. And B, because it explains this. I'm going to give you a relation in first normal form. And we want to get to third normal form. And there is a process. To get from first normal form to second normal form, I have to resolve the partial functional dependencies. The situations where some attributes are functionally dependent on just part of the primary key, as opposed to the whole primary key. I'm in first, I want to get to second, I have to resolve the partial functional dependencies. Once I'm in second, and only at that time, can I then say, I want to move to third normal form. To get to third normal form, I have to resolve the transitive dependencies. And that's just where I have a non-key attribute, a regular old attribute, that's functionally dependent upon another non-key attribute. After I resolve those, I will have a set of relations in third normal form. Functionally, what I'm going to do is take one tangled up table and yank out some tables so that it's all the way it should have been in the first place through a process that I'm going to teach you. Okay, but you start in first, resolve the partial functional dependencies to get to second. From second, you resolve the transitive dependencies to get to third. There's never ever a time when you go first, third, done. Not really. Not really. Okay. You'll never draw this. I don't want you to ever draw this. This is just a visual aid. Don't ever do this. But what's going to happen is I'm going to write this out as a sentence, as a relation. And I'm going to give you the dependencies that we know. In the real world, you would get these from a business analyst or you talking to the people. But I have to give them to you in this class. What I'm telling you, by the way I've written this, is if you know the order ID, you know the order date, customer ID, customer name, customer address, or I'm saying order date, customer ID, customer name, and customer address are functionally dependent on order ID. Well, the primary key is order ID and product ID. And I just told you all these things are dependent on just part of that composite key. They are a partial functional dependency. If you know the customer ID, you know the customer name and customer address. Customer name and customer address are dependent upon a non-key attribute. That's a transitive dependency. I got things dependent on a non-key attribute. That's a transitive dependency. So this one here, product description, product finish, unit price are dependent upon product ID. That's a
Partial.
absolutely, because it's dependent on part of the primary key. If I know order ID and product ID, oh, we don't worry about that one. Ignore that. Because we won't put those on there. That's the one that's like everything's okay. Now, the easiest way to show this to you is I'm going to do this problem on the board. Does everybody have a copy of that in front of them? Almost. All right, I'm going to draw. So just chill out for a second while I draw this up on the board. So, because I don't want to do it on one side or the other, so someone, in case, then someone won't be able to see it. So hang tight while I get my writing on. And then we're just going to do this one because it's the easiest way to learn it. Just watch me do it. And then you do it. Unfortunately, I'm kind of slow at writing these. Okay. So, consignment. Consignment. And I tell you, CID, vessel ID, boy ID, boy destination, EID, container ID, C description, E name, E address, E vessel type. Two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. Okay. And then over here, I'm going to tell you, if we know the CID, we know the EID, container ID, container description, employee name, the employee address. And I'm going to tell you if we know the EID, we know the E name, the E address. And I'm going to tell you if you know the voyage ID, you know the voyage destination. And I'm going to tell you, you know the vessel ID, you know the vessel type. Okay, I'm going to give you all that up front. Should I use more colors? Nah. Okay. Everybody comfy with this so far? This is first normal form. Why? Because I said so. Because I wrote it as a relation, and I'm not going to play any games about trying to trick you about what is first normal form or not. If I've written it, it's first normal form. Now, partial functional dependency or transitive dependency? Partial? Who's in agreement? Anyone opposed? All right then. I want to write PFD up there. And so are you if you want to pass the test. This is the way to do it. I'm showing you exactly how to do this. All right, what about this next one? Partial or transitive? All those in favor? Y'all, that was y'all didn't even look. Third one, transitive or partial? Transitive? I gotta look myself, man. And that last one, transitive or partial? Partial. Partial. So the first thing I'm going to do is sit here and make a note, PFD, TD, TD, because I'm in first normal form. To get to second, I have to resolve the partial functional dependencies.
Okay. How? still confused on the partial and the transitive.
Okay.
Explain how you run.
Okay, this first one, I'm saying that if you know CID, you know these other things. But ideally, everything in here should require both CID and vessel ID to be identified. The fact that those are dependent on just CID or just part of the composite primary key, that's a partial functional dependency. They're dependent on part of the composite primary key. Get this. If it's not a composite primary key, you start off in second normal form. If the primary key only has one chunk, there can't be a partial functional dependency. Whoosh, you're in second normal form.
So that's when you have something else, like we have CID and we also have EID. So because we have both, it's a partial, because it's dependent on the other. Am I kind of on the right track?
I'm not quite tracking with you. The fact that it's dependent on either this part or that part makes it a partial functional dependency.
Okay.
That's why the last one is partial, because vessel type only needs vessel ID. Remember how I nagged you since the very, 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 very beginning of this class about the fact that this is a primary key. Remember how many billions of times I've corrected y'all? This is why. That's a key. And a partial functional dependency is when something is dependent on part of that key. I just saw that click for you, man. Yeah, that's why I've been nagging y'all all this time, because that's a key. E-name and E-address are dependent on EID. EID is just an attribute, man. It's just this dude hanging out, man. It's not a primary key of any kind. That's a transitive dependency. Same thing with saying voyage destination is dependent upon, or a vessel type is dependent upon, voyage destination is dependent upon voyage ID. Voyage ID is just an average, plain old, everyday attribute. It's a transitive. Are y'all with me? Like legit with me, because this isn't that hard if we get it right the first time. Okay, so here's how I'm going to fix this. Pay close attention. Magic. Whoosh. What I just said was, if I know the CID, right, make a good primary key, right? Then I know EID, container ID, C description, E-name, and E-address. And I need to give this relation a name. I call it anything I want. Anything at all. But, I'm going to call it a container. But it does have to have a name because all of our relations have a name. I had to weigh whether or not I wanted it on my finger versus leaving it alone. Yeah. Right? That makes sense? That's the first thing that I did. I just took this PFD right here. I said, oh, primary key, attributes, give that thing a name. Done. But wait. If this is a big messed up table and I just pulled a table out of it, I still need to have them connected. Primary key to foreign key. So here's the rule. Wherever I got CID from, it's eventually going to pick up, wow, that's a really bad idea. Hold on. It's eventually going to pick up a foreign key constraint. So I'm just going to make a note up here above, right? I'm just going to be like, yeah, that's right. That's going to need to be a foreign key to hook those up. Cool? Rinse, repeat for the next one. It needs a name. I'm going to call it a vessel. And I say, if I know the vessel ID, primary key, I know the vessel type. Okay, I've got vessel ID from up here, so, right? Maybe I will use a color here. Here's something else. I've accounted for EID in this new table, and I counted for container ID in this table. I counted for container description, employee name, employee address, and I accounted for vessel type. So what's left out of consignment? I have to rewrite consignment now. Consignment. CID, primary, like it was, but it picked up a foreign key attribute. Vessel ID, like it was, primary, but it picked up a foreign key attribute. Voyage ID, voyage destination. No. This is my set of relations in second normal form. I took that big table and I pulled out two tables and connected them, primary key to foreign key. Any questions at all with this process? Because I do not mind repeating this. I'm teaching you a very simple process. The process is so simple, in fact, that we don't care what the words are in there. They don't help us in any fashion. In fact, they could lead us astray. Now that I'm in second normal form, working from here, I'm done with first normal form. Working from here, I'm going to go to third normal form. Same thing that I did. Okay, I do my PFDs, now I'm going to do my TVs. If I know the EID, I know the employee name and employee address. So I'll call it employee. I'm going to say if I know the EID, primary key, I know the E name and the E address. Now, I want to be careful while I make my notes up in second normal form because I don't want to mess up what's right. I don't want to be just throwing down a bunch of dots and stuff. But I'm going to make a little note. I'm going to say, I stole EID from here. And E name and address are accounted for. So I better rewrite container because I see I'm not going to do anything more with it. So container. Has CID, that did not change. EID picked up a foreign key. Container ID, still there. Container description, still there. I don't want to duplicate e-name or e-address. Get rid of my little notes. So like if you're doing this in pencil on a test, you like erase that to keep everything looking good. Everybody feeling what I did? Didn't do anything new. I made a new table. Wherever I stole EID from, picked up a foreign key constraint, and I got rid of the duplicates. I had two tables stuck in there, and I ripped out employee and stuck them together. All right, I'm going to do it with the next transitive dependency. I'll call it voyage for the obvious reasons. Voyage. If I know the voyage ID, primary key, I know the voyage destination, void dest. Okay, where did I get voyage ID from? Right here. So that's going to be like that, and that's going to be like that. So I better rewrite consignment now, because I changed it. Consignment had two tables in it. I just ripped voyage out of there. So consignment. Has CID, primary and foreign, vessel ID, primary and foreign. Nothing changed there. Voyage destination did, however. It picked up a foreign key annotation. Oh, I'm sorry, it did not. Voyage ID did. Voyage ID, and I don't want to duplicate voyage destination. Go back, get rid of my marks, because I don't want to mess up what was a beautiful second normal form. Okay, am I done? Almost. Container, consignment. Vessel did not change, but it's still going to be part of my set of relations in third normal form. I need to bring it down. It's unchanged, but vessel and vessel ID, primary vessel type, this is my set of relations for third normal form. And it's done. That's the process of normalization. You're given something in first normal form. You're told what the functional dependencies are. You're going to identify partial functional dependencies versus transitives. You're going to do the partials to get into second normal form. You're going to do the transitives to get into third normal form. So how did I make this problem? Well, I took the ERD that had these 5 tables, and I rolled consignment into voyage, and I rolled employee into container, and then I rolled container and vessel into consignment, and made one big table. And then I gave you the required information to bring it back out the way it should be. Again, this is a tool for going into someone else's shop, looking at their database, and having a formal set of rules for getting to a proper set of relations. And from there, obviously, you could do an ERD, right? I mean, we're not going to do this, but it's not bizarre for me to go, okay, I don't even know if this will resolve, but let me look at it for a second. Yeah. I could say vessel. Consignment. Container is probably this list of entity. But then employee is stuck in container. Right? And I know it's a one-to-one to an assumption. I mean, I could go from there back out to reverse ERD. It's all the same thing. I haven't taught you anything new since day 2 except for this process.
Where did we get, in the second normal form, where did we get consignment? Where did that information come from?
Okay. Consignment was already here.
Okay.
When I wrote container, I stole CID from there, so I said, well, that's going to have to pick up a foreign key constraint. And I got rid of the duplicates. When I did vessel, I stole a vessel ID from there, so that picked up a foreign key constraint. I got rid of the duplicate. And then I just rewrote consignment with that change, and the remaining attributes.
And then in third normal form, we're basically going further. We do the transitive first, and then kind of bring those out, and kind of just continue down. Like, that's what you start with the transitive on the third normal form, right? We did employee, and then
Right, I did employee, but I'm working from second.
yeah.
Third's working from here. So I did employee, and got rid of the duplicates, and then rewrote container.
Okay.
I did voyage, and I stole voyage ID from here, got rid of the duplicate, so I had to rewrite consignment. And then vessel I brought down just because I needed it to be in my set of tables. Setting aside the fancy terms for a second, it's my set of tables.
So when you say the ... like that would be basically you pencil and you erase that to keep second normal form.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to want to make notes up here, but if you don't erase it and you leave that there, well, then we're going to think that you didn't know how to do second normal form, and you'll be frustrated, to say the least, when we mark that wrong. But we'll have no choice, really, right? Because we can't derive your intentions. So I would just do it lightly in pencil and then erase it afterwards. It's no big deal. Or be fancy like me and get a different color, but I'll still erase personally. Any questions about this? You guys want me to talk you through it one more time? Guys being my non-gender word. Anyone? Do y'all want me to talk through it again? I don't mind at all.
Can you talk through the third normal form again?
How about I go all the way through one more time?
Okay.
Okay? You're given this, and you're given these.
Okay.
And we're going to decide partial functional dependency because these are dependent on part of the composite primary key.
How about this? You wanna
I'm
start?
having fun, but what? I'm not gonna let you out of here this early no matter what, even though I have to sing.
How about we start, let's make up a new one.
Nope. These are hard to make. It's hard to roll these up in such a way that I can get you to come to the correct answer. It's non-trivial. The other two parts, you guys can go forward and back all you want. These, when you email me, be like, I need more. I'll be like, no,
Okay.
no, because they're a pain. I can't do one off the top of my head. I know my
Okay.
limitations. Okay, we figure out the PFD. I mean, if I were you writing down steps, I'd be like, step 1, figure out which are the PFDs, which are the TDs. Step 2, take the first PFD and write it down as a relation with a name,
Say again.
right? What you don't want to do, some people will give this name and either no primary key or, I mean, come on, we understand what the purpose of a primary key is. This is pretty straightforward. So CID is a primary key and those attributes. That's step 1, is to turn the PFD into a relation. Step 2 is wherever you stole the primary key from, in first normal form, it's going to pick up a foreign key attribute, get rid of your duplicates. And then I would have rewritten consignment right away, except for the fact that I could see that I was going to get up in it again with the second partial functional dependency. And that just would have gotten messy, but that's the only reason I waited. And you're just going to rinse and repeat. So I changed this, and then I took the revised consignment. Since I pulled 2 tables out of consignment, I put the revised consignment down here, which is picked up a foreign key attribute, got rid of all the duplicates, that's what's left. That's my set of relations to second normal form. Third normal form, same thing. I start with the first transitive dependency, write it out as a relation. Where did I steal EID from? Well, now I'm working from here, not up here. Where did I steal EID from? Right there, ... Gonna get rid of these. I better rewrite container while it's fresh in my head. CID, EID, picked up a foreign key. Those are what's left. Next, Org ID. Rinse, repeat. What's left over? Vessel. That's it. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15 points. 1 point if this is just brought down, even if that's wrong. That's a 15-point problem. Give you guys a sense of scale for the test. Which isn't for like 2 more weeks or 3 weeks. 3 weeks from now, I think. Questions? Yes, sir.
Once you steal the SID primary key from the consignment entity to make a container entity, why do you?
Wait. When I steal from consignment, this.
Yeah, from the first.
Oh,
first
from
to the second.
All right. So this first steal.
Yeah.
Okay.
When you rewrite the consignment in the second normal form, you still use the same primary key because it's.
It's still a primary key. All I did was add a foreign key constraint to it.
Okay, because it's a composite primary key, it doesn't change.
This is a partial because of that fact. Because EID, container ID, container description, ename and the address are dependent on just part of the key, right? This is the whole thing is the key. It's dependent on just this one part, not both parts. That's what makes it a partial. And then when I steal CID, I just have to make that specific part of the key for it. I don't know that I'm answering, I'm not seeing the spark. Is that kind of making sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know that I need to do that, but I don't understand why still.
You don't understand the why? Well, how about this? If I make a table, so here's a table full of stuff, and I'm pulling out another table, right? At that moment in time, I have 2 tables that are not connected at all. We never have that in our database. We've got to have a foreign key, primary key, sticking them together, right? So the rule is we take this primary key and make it a foreign key over here. It was already a primary key, so it just adds the foreign key characteristic to it. I'm trying to pick and choose my words. I almost said attribute. No, it would have been a train wreck. This is a mechanical process. Yes, sir.
The only thing I think that's tripping me up is, like for instance, on the third normal, why is it just e-name and e-address left over? Like on employee.
Well, because I told you right here, if you know employee ID, you know employee name and employee address.
Okay.
So I just wrote it down. I stole EID in the second normal form from right here.
Okay.
I picked up that foreign key. I get rid of e-name and e-address. That's the two things remaining. Look. Ooh, I know, blue's hard to erase, but we're going to do the colors here. Look, this is number 1, this is number 2, this is number 3, and this is number 4. This is number 1. This is number 2. This is number 3. And this is number 4. Those 4 things are created just by the fact that I took that information and gave it a name and wrote it as a relation. That's just super straightforward. I do that. I take whatever primary key I've got then, and wherever I took it from picks up an additional foreign key constraint, and I get rid of the duplicates and rewrite the thing I just changed. That's it. But those 4 things, the 1, 2, 3, 4, those, I got that information right from there. Nothing else needed. Wrote it out, give it a name, wrote it out.
So here you say when you take an attribute out of one area and make it a primary key in the other entity, it becomes a foreign, you put the foreign key constraint on the one you took it from. Does that make
Yes.
sense?
Yes. I didn't like some of those early words, but yeah. Yeah.
I'm just trying to get.
It's always like in the sense of, does he know what he's talking about, or do I need to lecture about that again? I think we're good. Wherever I got this primary key, so I mean, now I got to bust out the brown. All right, but look, that's going to be a primary key. That's going to be a primary key. That's going to be the primary key. That's going to be the primary key. Wherever I got the primary key from, wherever I got it from, it picks up dots. It gets dots.
So the transitive dependencies, if I were to walk up on that and no other information, would I be safe in assuming that because EID and boy ID, those lines are transitive dependencies, that they would stand in their own table? That they're done, they're already in 3NF because they're not a foreign key anywhere. They're their own entity. And
Yes, if you knew that. Yes, if you were sure that they were transitive dependencies.
because it's not part of the primary key.
No, I see what you're saying.
assignment.
Don't put
Is
any
that-
more words around it. No, you're right, but I don't want to know how you got to that decision. You're right. Those transitive dependencies are not going to go through another process.
Right.
If I could reformulate what I think I hear you say.
If I see a transitive dependency,
But it
it's
doesn't
done.
matter. I wouldn't waste any RAM on that. It doesn't matter. I mean, if it helps you, sure, but transitive dependencies, you're right, they've reached their final form. But it doesn't really apply. You're going to start here, and the first thing you're going to do are your partials. And after you've made a beautiful second normal form with these brackets that have taken me a decade to learn how to draw, only then will you do the transitives from here to make the third normal form, and those brackets are slightly challenged, but whatever.
Okay.
Yes?
So with our primary keys from the dependencies, they never get fully pulled out of whatever their parent entity was, like from the first step, the previous step?
Yes.
foreign keys.
Yes, they gain the foreign key. Gotcha. The foreign key annotation. Dots. They get dots. Yeah, we never move them out of. Yes. There's times I wish I could just have little sound booths. Just what he said makes perfect sense to him, but I would bet money in here someone else in the class just said, wait, what? You know? Yes. And it's this process. There's nothing more to the process. There's nothing less. None of our rules have changed. Everything that you've learned applies here, so don't get freaky deaky on this. I literally showed you how to make peanut butter cookies. Don't be reaching for the chocolate chips. That is like not okay in my household. We're just thrown out of the house. No, man, peanut butter cookies are a thing, and mine are awesome. You don't ever put, okay, I'm going to show you. Are we good? I'm not going to erase, I'm not going to erase that. So y'all can take pictures of it if you want. Although the answers that may or may not be right, I'll post them up. I know that's right, because we just did it. Nobody called me out on it. I want to show you your homework, though, because I don't want you to freak out. Now, I lightly apologize if any of you feel like you're not getting your money's worth on these nights when we run short. Just feel free to complain to me, my boss, the dean, whatever. I don't care. I think I'm getting my value in your time back out. But honestly, if it bothers you, let me know, and I'll tell you all the reasons why I don't care. I mean that in a good way. My classes have certain reputations, and one of them inadvertently is being worked to death. And I think I finally got database at a level where people don't feel like that. But I'm starting a new scripting class that will be available in the spring.
What kind of
It's going to be awesome sauce.
What brand?
4713, 5713. Online. We just haven't put the online one up yet, but it'll probably pop online at some point. But it sure will be in the classroom.
Language.
Are you correcting me on my language?
No, I'm asking.
Is this a
what
maternal language?
language?
Language, son.
I'm asking what language.
I'm going to teach Bash, PowerShell, Python, and the Linux structures.
Oh.
So what we'll do is we'll use the MSS virtual images available from the Stillwater campus for Windows PowerShell. And then after after spending 2 days of trying to run Ubuntu inside of VirtualBox, inside of the ESXi server, I finally gave up, and Dr. Lou said, here, I have an old server with 320 gigs of RAM, so we're dropping 2 terabytes of solid-state drive in, so we're just going to spin up our own Linux, which I don't know what I'm doing yet. If I'm going to use CentOS or OpenSUSE or straight up Debian. I don't know, because in the other classes they're using Ubuntu server. I don't know, but some flavor, and we'll spin them up. And then that's what we're going to do. It's an introductory class, despite all those words. But show you how to do scripting, PowerShell, Bash, introduction to Python, not the object-oriented side, but the like get her done. We'll use Al Sweigert's free textbook, automating things with Python, and I'll steal copiously from Learn Python in a month of lunches. No book, lots of do. It's going to be a train wreck. People will be overworked, but it'll be great. We'll have fun. It'll be great.
That's good. Sounds real good.
All my first run classes are just absolutely scary. As my first run master's offensive hacking class was just a nightmare of overwork. I mean, it's bad when you have everyone in the class going, I spent 8 hours on this, I'm halfway through, stop. It's like, yeah, but isn't it fun? They're like, it's so much fun, but I have a family. Whatever. Sell the kids, divorce, wife, hit the gym, get a lawyer, you know how it goes. Okay, look, here's your first one. It's very straightforward. First normal form, and I repeated what this means, but if you know the horse name, you know those things. You know the owner ID, you know those things, you know the race ID, and that's familiar, right? We know that ERD. I like to reuse the same ERDs. The test is way more likely to look like this. And this tends to cause some people anxiety, and I would like to help you with that. Okay?
Oh.
Yes. You want this, you just don't know it. Because I can choose words that will make you think there's relations that shouldn't be there. I could make this a nightmare with words. This is easy. because it's a mechanical process. What I just taught you is a mechanical process. Is that a PFD or a TD? PFD, man. They're depending on just part of the primary key. That second one, PFD or TD? Part of. TD. Mechanical process. You'll learn to love these. That style right there, that is very comforting on reverse ERDs and these, because it doesn't make you think that dogs have to go with owners. I mean, I could write this in such a way that dog and owner have nothing to do with it, and it doesn't matter. Your hand will shake, you'll know you're doing wrong, and you'll still be forced to put those together, because I've used that example so much in this class. You'll be cognitively doomed. So no, let's do this. We're going to do something like this. That is the entirety of your homework. Now, while we have this, we're still nice and early. I'm going to lecture a tiny little thing to you. Anybody got to go potty? Want a 5-minute break till blah 35, and I'm going to lecture to you really brief. That's what we're going to do. Unless nobody moves. Great. Tiny lecture. Get out of here, Blaze. Okay. I didn't mean that's just a generational thing, man. Blaze used to be like to leave quickly. When I was in high school, everything was all Jesse. We'd all Jesse, right? Yeah, none of you are old enough to get that reference. Because Jesse Owens was the fastest man on the planet at the time, and so when you Jesse, you were leaving really quickly. And now I realize the Blaze thing, yes, I'm fully aware, but we're in Colorado, man. Kyle, what was I going to show you?
I can make you feel young again. I say skedaddle.
I'm sorry, what?
I said I can make you feel young again. I say skedaddle.
Can't make me feel young again. I got so many years on all y'all. You know what? It's okay. I really don't mind the fact that I'm getting old. It doesn't stress me at all.
C1, C2. You have to think about it a little harder.
Look, I'm going to keep this kind of like to the bare minimums, because there's a whole bunch of stuff. One downside of these Tulsa once-a-week classes is there's a bunch of behind-the-scenes add-ons that you just don't get, man. You don't get any DLCs with this class, so you just get the basic thing, which is great, because you're going to be prepped and armed. But a couple of things, words that I think you need to know. Okay, there's a lot. I'm teaching you how to do diagrams. I'm going to teach you how to make tables, put data inside the tables, and get information out of the tables. That's good, man. If we do all that in a semester, we're good. Now, the real job, of course, involves a whole bunch more of maintenance and then the whole physical side of how many servers and server clusters and you know, I could teach 3 semesters of this class, okay? But on the physical database design side, okay, we will sometimes do denormalization. And you heard me say that when I talked about 3rd and a half, or Boyce called normal form 4th and 5th. I said we denormalize out of them. Sometimes, a lot of the times, we can do all the academic, get it down super tiny, but in the real world, it's too much. Okay, there's 3 instances, and you do need to know this stuff, because I could see me making a multiple choice question out of this. And these slides should be available to you. If they're not, let me know. Okay, there's 3 instances where we might, in the real world, but we will never mess with our ERDs in here. In the real world, there's 3 places where we might denormalize. One-to-one relationships, certain many-to-many relationships, and a special kind of one-to-many. But I'm going to make this make sense. First off, and this is the old school thing, right? But if you have a one-to-one relationship, we're highly unlikely to leave it alive in the real world. It's just 2 tables, and then we have to spend CPU time rejoining. It's nonsense. I'm just literally going to take application date and qualifications and bring them over here and deal with the nulls. But you've heard me say this. Right? I have Ford taught you a lot of things, and that's what I've already taught you. I'm like, yeah, we'll deal with the nulls. One-to-ones, we're more likely in the real world to kill, and just put them like this. None of this changes the ERDs that we're doing. Don't let this warp you. That makes sense, right? Okay. A little less intuitive is this one. If I have a many-to-many and I've made an associative entity, if, in fact, in a real ERD, there ain't much going on there, I may choose to get rid of it. And the way I'm going to get rid of it, it helps to think of this as a one-to-many and a one-to-many. And in fact, if you go back to my first set of slides, you can see that I made colored boxes that overlap and emphasize this one-to-many thing that happens. Well, what I might do is leave vendor like it is, one-to-many, that didn't change, and all I did was take this attribute and move it over here and cut the end off. So saying a vendor has one-to-many items, items have one-to-many vendors, the thing in the middle is a price quote. Maybe I'll just say a vendor has one-to-many price quotes. I still kept item ID. We just pulled from one side and cut that end off. We pulled the attributes off one side and cut the end off. In the real world, if the associative entity isn't actually doing us a lot of favors, we might choose to denormalize it, especially if we're doing a lot of queries where we're constantly putting it back together and there's not much value in putting it together.
Do you still call that an associative entity?
Not when we're done. I would just call that a one-to-many.
Is that in the slides?
Yeah, this is from the slides.
I was asking if that was it.
Yeah. Again, this doesn't change anything we're doing in here. I just want to put this in a real world perspective for you, because database is meaningless unless we're doing real world attitudes, real world stuff. Now, the third one is a lot more difficult. You just need to listen to me. Let's say that we run a museum, and we have instructions on how to store items, such that we have storage instructions that go to one-to-many items. And we're going to look at the extremes on either end. We're going to do some calculus on this. All right? Let's look at the extremes. What if there's one set of instruction? But let's go the other way. What if every single instruction actually really only goes to one item? Every item has its own unique PDF document. Well, then this is stupid. This serves me nothing. I might as well go ahead and put that data with the item and be done with it. On the other side, what if there was one 18 billion page document that served all the items? Then I'm loving this. I'm not repeating the 18 billion page document 100,000 times. Somewhere in the middle of those two extremes, you find yourself making a decision about, do I want this one-to-many, this reference one-to-many, where this is a reference source for whatever that is? Do I want to keep it, or do I want to collapse it? And those are the three common places where we'll break the rules and denormalize our way back out of what we've been doing in relational transactional databases. Okay?
So those are like, that was a question on a test. Would there be like, these are the three types of denormalization they'd be called? Like, there was called anything? Or
Paint myself yellow and do it in interpretive dance now.
Okay.
I have no idea. I just ask you, if I were to ask you anything, I'd ask you what the three most common denormalization ways were, or something
Which
like that.
would be what? Like, what would you call it?
Becky?
Oh, okay, gotcha. That's what I was, thanks.
Smack him for me. No, don't. Go to jail forever. That's right. Yeah, last person standing gets an A. Right? We might also take one table and do horizontal partitioning. Think of it as an employee table where we pull out some of the southern employees and actually put them on a database, a physical server closer to Atlanta. And we take the snowflakes and put them in a special one up near Seattle. And we take our New Yorkers and we move them to New Yorker. We might actually take a table and do horizontal partitioning where we take records out and physically put them closer to where they're being used. Same with vertical partitioning. I might have a big employee table and strip out all the HR stuff about the employee and put that over near Bozeman, Montana, because that's where the HR department is, and the immediacy of the network. We have reasons why we do this. Just saying, we might take a table and break it up through horizontal or vertical partitioning. Yeah, whatever. Advantages and disadvantages are obvious. We might just go for flat out data replication. Comes with a whole set of problems, but sometimes we'll do that. Especially if you're a global company and you've got branches everywhere, your database is going to be replicated. We're not going to do indexing, okay? But you need to know what the indexes are. And it's kind of a premature discussion because we haven't done queries, but I think you can make sense of this. Windows wants to index everything all the time. It says, I can find things faster for you. But it's like this, I can find things faster for you. It's a little bit of a lie. That statement's true, but at the cost of, at some point when you're actually trying to do something important like game, I will slow everything down while I re-index, while I re-alphabetize everything. So indexing is super important in database to get crisp responses from our applications. And every primary key is automatically indexed. Has to be. And in Oracle, they're actually even physically indexed on the hard drive. They're literally next to each other. It's so important. But the decision to index any other attributes or pairs of attributes or sets of 3 attributes, or you get the idea, comes at a trade-off between speed of lookup, downtime indexing. When you run a database, you have roughly a production database. You might have from 2 to 5, 1 to 4. You got about 3 hours, maybe 4, if your life is really, really awesome, to get a whole bunch of maintenance done at night, running scripts. And so indexing can't take all that time. You've got other things that you're trying to do, including your backups. Here's two extremes again. The winter catalog, JCPenney's, whatever. I'm going to index everything in every possible way all day long because it's not going to change. So I'll spend a full day indexing. But then every lookup you do